Welcome to So Very Easy. My name is Laura, and children love to be in the kitchen with us. They love to imitate us, and they like to help us. So let's make some child-sized little play oven mitts. I'll put a link in the description to the pattern to the child's play oven mitt. The pattern does have a couple of different sizes: 2 to 4 years old, 4 to 6 years old, 6 to 8, and 8 to 12 years old. We're going to make them all the same size, and we're going to be able to roll the bottom up so that the hand is going to fit into the proper size. As they grow, we're going to be able to unroll it so that it's going to fit them as they grow. So the first thing we're going to need is a piece of fabric. To make 2 mitts, we're going to need a piece that is 18 inches wide and 27 inches long. Press this and press that fabric right in half. So it's 27 inches by 9 inches. Instead of using batting or something heavy inside, we're going to use a thin layer of flannel or flannelette. We still want the oven mitt to look quilted like an oven mitt, but we don't need it heavy and bulky. After all, they're not going to be handling anything hot. They're just needing to have it look like they can handle something. And having it thin is also going to make it a lot easier for them to use. That thick batting inside is going to be hard for them to pick up and move things because it's so thick in their little hands. So having just a thin piece of flannel or flannelette is all we're going to need. That flannel or flannelette needs to be about 9 inches by 27 inches. Have one edge that is nice and straight, and place that fabric right along that press line. Smooth out any wrinkles and then fold the top over, making sure there is no wrinkles in that fabric. I'm using this really cute fabric from Timeless Treasures. It's got all these cute little ants on it. So what we're looking at is a folded piece of fabric with that flannel or flannelette in between. This is going to become an edge so we don't have to do any edge stitching and no hand stitching. Once we have all 3 layers together, we're going to quilt all of the fabric. After it's quilted, we're going to cut out the shapes. I'm going to do a horizontal quilting line at 1 inch apart, and I'm going to do the entire piece at the same time. Once I did my 1 inch grid marks, I stitched a 1/4 inch from the top. I was able to start at the bottom and stitch following the lines, and when I got to the top, I was able just to pivot and go back down. By continually following the stitches and pivoting up at the top, I have no threads along the top. We're going to be able to cut out the little oven mitts. The dark line is the stitching line, and then we have a seam allowance. The seam allowance can be adjusted to whatever you would like the seam allowance to be. I have it set at 1/4 inch. If you want it larger, just cut out it a little bit bigger. Do one more cut, and that's cut that thumb apart right until that edge. And that's going to help give you a stitching line. From here, we're going to be able to trace this out on the fabric. The dark line is the stitching line. You're going to be able to just start on one edge and go all the way around. And when you come to this little area, whatever your seam allowance is, you're going to stitch down, come around, and go back. So the stitching line is going to go along here, and that cutting line is going to go right through the center. Once your mitt's been cut out, we're going to be able to cut out the fabric. We can cut out this mitt in 2 different ways. Have that flat edge along the folded edge and cut it out 4 times, 2 in one direction, 2 in the other. Or if both sides are the same, you just need to cut out 4. If you want, you can use the one edge and use it as a fold. Take that long strip of fabric, cut it in half so you have 2 longer pieces, and then fold the fabric in half. Now we can take that cut edge, put it along the folded edge, and just take that and put it right along the black line. You can pin those fabrics together first, and then draw your line and cut it out. We now have that mitt shape, and we have that line coming right down the center. We can transfer that curve mark to the front. So we're just going to make a little thumb opening. Before we take this to the machine and stitch it, we can add a little hanging cord. Take a little piece of ribbon with 2 or 3 inches long and just slip it in between the 2 layers. If you have those ends hanging out, you know you're going to catch them in the seam. Now follow whatever seam allowance you're going to stitch and stitch all the way around, going into that loop of the thumb and coming right off to the edge. And I would back stitch in both areas to secure that down. Once you've stitched all the way around the outside, you can trim in to that center point, and that will make that thumb be free. The next thing is to do a finished edge like a zigzag all the way around, stopping at your fold. With that edge finished off, we can turn it right side out. We now have a tiny, thin oven mitt. And if you have a child that's small, you're going to be able to just take that top, roll it down once, or even roll it down twice. So the play oven mitt is going to fit a small child, a little toddler, and even a child a little bit older. And at the end, we have a hanging ring. By not using that heavy wadding or batting inside, it's going to be very easy for them to use because it is nice and thin. We now have 2 little oven mitts, no hand sewing, and the seam is finished on the outside. And you can always change the size. Our little helpers now have some little play oven mitts so that they can help us in the kitchen. Thank you for joining me today on Sew Very Easy. Feel free to subscribe, and as always, come on back. Let's see what we're sewing next time in the sewing room. Bye for now.